My name is Bella. When my lawyer texted, call me immediately. I thought it was about my divorce papers. But what he told me made my world stop. My parents, the people who raised me, were planning to steal my $50,000 settlement and vanish abroad with fake passports. That's the day I learned family can break you harder than any enemy, and it's also the day I decided they'd never hurt me again. If you've ever trusted someone so completely only to discover they were using you, you'll feel every second of this story. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay till the end, because watching Bella turn betrayal into justice will give you chills. The day my lawyer texted, call me immediately, was the day my world fell apart. But to understand why that message changed everything, I need to take you back, just a few months earlier, when I believed my life was finally on the mend. After 2 long years of a miserable marriage, I had finally signed the divorce papers. The process had drained every drop of energy I had left, but when my lawyer called to confirm the $50,000 settlement, I remember smiling for the first time in months. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine. It represented freedom, a fresh start, a second chance. I moved into a small apartment just outside of town, a place that smelled faintly of new paint and old promises. The walls were bare, the furniture minimal, but it was peaceful. For the first time in ages, I could wake up without dread in my chest. My golden retriever, Milo, would wag his tail every morning like he knew we'd made it out alive. Still, there were nights when the silence hit harder than I expected. The kind of silence that makes your own thoughts feel too loud. That's when my parents, Mark and Linda Holloway, started visiting more often. "Sweetheart," Mom said one evening, dropping by unannounced with takeout. "You've lost weight again. Are you even eating properly?" I laughed. "I'm trying to save money. Divorce diets are free, right?" Dad chuckled too, though it didn't reach his eyes. "You've always been too soft-hearted, Bella. You need to start thinking practically. Maybe we can help you invest that settlement properly, grow it a bit." I shrugged. "Sure, maybe later." They shared a look, subtle, quick, but noticeable. I brushed it off at the time. Parents worry, I told myself. Maybe they just want to make sure I'm stable again. But over the next few weeks, their visits became more frequent, always with little questions that didn't feel so little. "How much did you say the settlement was again? Is it all in your account now or still pending? Maybe we should meet your lawyer, just to make sure everything's handled right." At first, I didn't think much of it. My parents were old-fashioned, the kind who believed in being involved in every detail of my life. Growing up, Dad controlled everything, what I studied, who I dated, even what I wore to job interviews. I used to think it was his way of protecting me, but as an adult, I realized it was about control. And Mom? She was the quiet enabler, always smoothing things over, always smiling, always saying, "He means well, Bella." After the divorce, that control came creeping back, but disguised as care. I remember one night in particular. The air smelled like rain, and I was curled on my couch watching some random Netflix show when Mom called. "Honey, I was thinking," she said, her tone honey-sweet. "You could let your father handle the bank paperwork for you. He's so good with finances. You've been through enough stress." I hesitated. "Mom, I appreciate it, but it's not that complicated. The money's already transferred. I'm fine." A pause. Then, that tiny sigh of disappointment. "Of course. You always were so independent." The way she said independent sounded like an insult. A few days later, Dad stopped by with coffee and a thick envelope. "Your mom thought I should bring you these," he said casually. Inside were copies of my legal documents, the divorce decree, settlement confirmation, even my passport copy. "Why do you have these?" I asked. He smiled like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Backup. You never know when you'll misplace something." It should have felt odd, but he was my father. The man who taught me to ride a bike, who drove me to school, who cheered at my high school graduation. So, I let him keep them for safety. Looking back, that was my first mistake. Weeks passed. Life returned to a fragile normal. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I even went out for coffee with a few friends. The world didn't feel so heavy anymore. Then, one morning, everything shifted. It was a rainy Tuesday. I remember because Milo tracked muddy paw prints all over my clean rug, and I was kneeling with paper towels when my phone buzzed. The message flashed on the screen. Thomas Grant, lawyer Bella. Call me immediately. Do not talk to anyone. My stomach dropped. My first thought was that something had gone wrong with the settlement, maybe my ex was appealing the case. I called him right away. Thomas? What's going on? His voice was urgent, low. Bella, we need to talk. I just received a notification from the bank. There was an attempt to transfer your entire settlement into an overseas account. My heart pounded. What? That's impossible. I haven't touched the account. That's why I'm calling. The account name is listed as Linda Holloway Trust. Do you know anything about that? The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the counter. That's my mother's name. Thomas continued, someone submitted your passport, your digital signature, and an authorization letter claiming it was part of your relocation fund. I couldn't even process it. My relocation what? I've already frozen the transfer, he said. But Bella, whoever did this knew your personal details. Things that weren't public. I hung up and stared at the wall for what felt like hours. The rain outside blurred the window into gray streaks. Mila whined softly, sensing something was wrong. Could it really be them? My parents? No. They'd never. But then, flashes started hitting me like lightning bolts, Dad's insistence on helping with finances. Mom's comment about relocating for a while. Their sudden interest in my money. A cold realization spread through me. I grabbed my keys and drove. I don't remember most of that ride, just the sound of the wipers and my heartbeat hammering in my ears. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, the porch light was on. Mom opened the door, smiling like always. Bella. You're soaked. What's wrong? I stepped inside, my voice shaking. Did you open a trust in your name? Her smile faltered. What? Don't lie to me, Mom. My hands were trembling. My lawyer said someone tried to move my settlement money to an account in Argentina. Under your name. From the kitchen, Dad's voice cut in, calm but cold. Your lawyer's mistaken. I turned toward him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see my father. I saw a stranger wearing his face. The kitchen smelled like coffee and deception. Dad sat at the table with his usual glass of whiskey, the ice melting into quiet circles. Mom stood by the counter, hands nervously wringing the hem of her robe. The air between us was thick, heavy, like the calm before an explosion. I stared at them both. Just tell me the truth. Did you try to take my settlement money? Mom's eyes darted to Dad. He didn't even look at me when he spoke. You don't understand, Bella. We were only trying to protect you. You've never been good with money. Protect me? I let out a sharp laugh that cracked mid-breath. By stealing everything I own? Mom stepped forward, voice trembling. Sweetheart, we weren't stealing. We just wanted to help manage it. You're too emotional right now. We thought maybe if we moved it somewhere safe. Safe? In Argentina? Her face drained of color. For a long second, nobody spoke. I could hear the clock ticking, Milo barking faintly from outside, and my own pulse roaring in my ears. Then my eyes fell on something half buried under a stack of magazines on the counter, a manila envelope. Instinct took over. I snatched it up before either of them could react. Bella, don't, Dad began, but it was too late. Inside were 2 passports. New names. Different birthplaces. Same faces. My parents. Alongside them was a printout of my bank account, my full balance circled in red pen, and flight reservations for Buenos Aires. My vision blurred. I felt my knees threaten to buckle. "You were really going to do it," I whispered. "You were actually going to run away with my money." Dad finally stood, his voice rising. "We deserve better than this miserable life. We gave you everything. You think 50 grand means you're suddenly smarter than us?" Mom was crying now, her words a tangled mess. "It was just a plan, Bella. We would have paid you back once things settled. We just needed a fresh start. A fresh start built on my ruins." I backed toward the door, every muscle trembling. "You're unbelievable," I whispered. "You had the nerve to call me irresponsible, and you're the ones forging passports." Dad slammed his glass down, shattering it across the table. "Don't you dare judge us." I didn't reply. I just walked out. The night air hit me like a slap, cold, sharp, and final. My tears burned against the rain that had started falling again. In the car, I sat gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My whole body shook, not from fear anymore, but from something deeper, realization. The people who raised me had turned into predators. And they weren't going to stop unless I made them. That's when I decided this wouldn't end with tears. It would end with justice. I didn't sleep that night. The storm outside had turned the sky into a restless gray sea, and every flash of lightning felt like it was cutting through my chest. I sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by the fragments of a world that no longer made sense. My parents, my own parents, had planned to steal everything from me. Not strangers. Not my ex-husband. Them. Every childhood memory now played like a cruel joke. My father teaching me about honesty. My mother warning me about bad people. All of it felt like rehearsed lines in a con they'd been practicing their entire lives. By dawn, my phone buzzed. It was Thomas, my lawyer. "Bella, I've been up all night reviewing the data," he said. "There's no mistake. The documents used in that transfer came directly from your parents' IP address. They forged your signature and scanned your passport." I closed my eyes, exhaling a shaky breath. "So it's really them?" "I'm afraid so. Now, listen carefully. You have two options: we can report them immediately, or we can set a trap and catch them in the act. It depends on what you want, Bella." What I wanted. The question echoed in my mind long after we hung up. Part of me wanted to curl up and disappear, to let the pain fade quietly. But another part, the part that had been silent all my life, finally spoke. I wanted them to face what they'd done. Not as my parents, but as criminals. The next few days passed in a blur. I went through every emotion imaginable: disbelief, rage, heartbreak, until finally, I landed on something clear and cold: determination. I gathered every piece of evidence Thomas needed. Screenshots, email copies, even old messages from my mom talking about relocating somewhere peaceful. I printed the fake passports I'd found and handed everything over. Thomas's eyes were sympathetic but firm. "This won't be easy, Bella. Once we move forward, there's no going back. They'll face charges." I nodded. "I understand." He hesitated. "They're your parents." I looked him straight in the eyes. "Not anymore." That night, I stared at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back wasn't fragile anymore. Her eyes were red, yes, but steady, like someone who'd walked through fire and learned to breathe smoke. "They wanted to play games," I whispered to my reflection. "Then they'll learn what it feels like to lose." I wasn't the naive daughter anymore. I was the one setting the trap. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm. Not peaceful, exactly, but focused. Every breath had purpose. Every move had meaning. Thomas and I met early that morning at his downtown office. The rain had finally stopped, leaving the city washed clean, ironic, considering the storm I was about to unleash. He slid a file across the table. "The agents are ready. If your parents show up to make the transfer, they'll be caught immediately." I looked at the file, my name printed across the top like a warning label. Are you sure this will work? He nodded. They've already requested the funds be released tomorrow. We just need to make sure they think you're cooperating. That's when I took out my phone. My hands didn't even shake as I typed. Bella, Mom, it's all fine now. The lawyer said the transfer can go through. Meet me at the bank at noon tomorrow? MOM, oh thank God. Of course, sweetheart. We'll be there. One message. That's all it took. The next day, I woke up before dawn. My stomach was in knots, but it wasn't fear anymore, it was adrenaline. I dressed simply, black coat, jeans, hair tied back. The kind of outfit that lets you blend into the crowd. By noon, the bank lobby buzzed with quiet murmurs and the hum of printers. The agents were already in place, disguised as employees and customers. Thomas stood near the back, pretending to review a file. Then they arrived. Mom walked in first, wearing her favorite cream scarf and fake smile. Dad followed, carrying a leather briefcase like a man with nothing to hide. Bella. Mom waved, voice dripping with warmth. You look lovely, honey. I smiled, the kind of smile that hides 1,000 daggers. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Everything's ready. They followed me to the counter. The bank manager, an undercover officer, greeted them politely. Mr. and Mrs. Holloway, we just need your authorization signatures to complete the release. Dad's pen moved quickly. Mom leaned over, whispering. See? I told you it'd all work out. That's when it happened. 2 men in suits stepped forward. Mark and Linda Holloway, you're under arrest for identity theft, fraud, and attempted embezzlement. Mom's smile vanished. What are you talking about? Dad froze, the pen dropping from his hand. This is a mistake. I stepped closer, my voice calm, almost soft. No mistake, Dad. You tried to steal from me. From your own daughter. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Bella, please, we didn't mean. I cut her off. You meant every bit of it. The officers cuffed them gently but firmly. The sound of metal locking echoed louder than any scream. As they were led away, Mom turned to me, whispering through trembling lips. You ruined your family. I met her gaze. No, Mom. You did that yourselves. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and subscribe for more real revenge stories that prove karma never sleeps. Tell us in the comments, would you turn in your own family if they betrayed you like Bella's did? And remember, sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's winning.